Welcome to That One Time with Adam Metwally. This week's episode is with Scott. We're going to get to know him in the next 10 minutes ahead of the full episode later on in the week. Hi, Scott.
How's it going? Nice to come on, and I'm excited for this.
I appreciate you coming on. So who are you in one sentence?
Who am I in one sentence? In one sentence, I would say professionally, I'm a podcaster. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm somebody that likes to figure shit out and learn. I guess that's my professional persona. And my personal persona, I mean, I should be a husband, and that'll be very soon. But right now, I'm a partner. I'm a boyfriend, which sounds a little bit underwhelming, and I guess a spouse in the short term. I'm also somebody who likes to develop themselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and I think that sort of transcends personal and professional. And I genuinely love working with incredible people, which I think has sort of been a major through line throughout my career with podcasts, with some of the businesses that I've built, supported, helped, even some of the content that I create right now. It's all meant to sort of make life less stressful for people that are trying to figure it out. So I'd say that's a long-winded version of who I am.
I like it. It's a very well-rounded human, it seems. So with that in mind, what would you say you're world-class at?
Well, that is the ideal. That is how I hope that I come across. I'm sure there's days that I'm not perfect. So.
It's okay. We can't all be perfect all the time. So it's all good. It's a spectrum. But yeah, what are you world-class at?
I am world-class at figuring shit out myself. I think that has been my biggest superpower, because I don't think there's anything across the spectrum of what I've done over my career that I haven't first figured out myself to some degree before hiring or outsourcing. I think that probably has helped me get a lot of projects off the ground in a very scrappy way, which I attribute a lot of my success to. And when I say everything, I mean, I've coded websites, I've mastered audio, I've cut video, I've overlaid motion graphics, I've written copy, I've jumped on Zoom calls to close deals, I've written legal contracts, I've, managed P&L. Like, there's a lot of different things that you do when you're trying to build a business. I've SEO'd websites. I understand, like high intent, short tail and long tail keywords. Like, there's not much that I really haven't figured out myself to some degree. And there's a reason for that, which is a blessing and a curse. But I think that would be my superpower.
Great. And what's the 3 most impactful things that you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger, and why?
The 3 most impactful things. I'll ask you this before we go down different rabbit holes. Would you like this to stay in the realm of business and entrepreneurship, or do you just want to open it up to like
wherever
life?
You feel?
Very good open-ended questions, I guess.
Wherever you feel it needs to go. I think it's all, it's up to, business is one part of life, and the goal of this podcast is to understand the human behind the projects and the way they tick and the way they think. And what is valuable here is not necessarily your story, but it's the thought process behind the story in the moment when you made the decisions that you made.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you need to understand the person to understand those things. So wherever you want to take it.
That sounds good. So I would say the most underrated idea and so you asked for 3. So I'll start with this. So the most underrated idea out of all the things that I've learned is having a stable home. I think that is this ridiculous competitive advantage. And whether or not that starts with, and again, this is coming from a place of a ton of privilege, because I didn't have a tough life growing up by any means. But I think having a stable home when you're a child, even though that's completely outside of your control, that creates this incredible, loving, nurturing framework, which I'm very appreciative of. And then also bringing that into your adult life, having a partner who, when shit is hitting the fan in your career and your business, can bring you back. And kind of like right before we started this podcast, we did this this breathe in, breathe out, center yourself. Well, life is full of moments where you're going to have these massive stressful events. And if you don't have somebody in your space, in your house, in your life, as a partner, as a wife, as a husband, that can remind you that the problems that you think you're going through are probably not as big as you think they are, and just bring down those cortisol levels and those stress levels, I think that can have massive negative impacts on your health, mental, physical, totally impact your work and professional performance. So I think that having that loving household is a superpower. And I think that, just a point, it's very important, if people didn't have that loving and supportive household growing up, because again, as a child, that's out of, you can't control that. I would say that's unfortunate, but knowing how important that is, build a supportive household so that your children can take advantage of that particular circumstance. And that just means maybe not being as chaotic with your relationships and what you expose them to, because it's benefit to you and to all your kids. So that's, I think, one of the most important underrated things. The second thing that, especially these days as well. Oh yeah, 1,000%. I mean, like hookup culture. I moved from Toronto to Miami, and I see guys that are like 50 years old that are still like drinking and going to clubs. Like, I think that I think that it's interesting, because a lot of the guys who are older, who are single, who now have money, when they built the thing that made them the money, it was when they were in the most stable part of their life. So I think that's very interesting. And it seems like they forget that. They forget that stability. And it's not a hard and fast rule. I'm sure a lot of guys who do a lot of dumb shit on the weekends and are single and go crazy also can build shit. But I just see the people that I look up to that have these incredible successes and, 8 and 9 figure exits, like phenomenal businesses, some businesses that you'd recognize. And they built that thing when their life was most stable, and they had like this home unit that worked. So I think there's something to be said for that. And I think that it's honestly because as people, we are actually really bad at, and I'm sure there's a lot of psychology and biology behind it, but we're really bad at figuring out how to sort of calm ourselves down and maintain sort of like this basis, this homeostasis when we go through stressful events. And I think that environment plays a big part of us being able to sort of go through that. I will try and get through the next two much quicker than that first one. So this,
no, so good.
The next one that I think has always been important for me has been physical health. So I still work out probably 5 or 6 times a week. That to me is a stress relief. Plus I feel like, again, I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be weak. I don't want to have all these health issues when I'm getting older. And I feel like working out is something that is sort of maximizing your life across all the spectrum. So maybe you make money, maybe you have a good relationship, but you can't negate your health for a variety of reasons. And working out, whether or not it's weightlifting, running, jogging, whatever it is, pick up a sport. Used to play a lot of hockey, Canadian. Not that we all do, but I did. And actually most of us do. That's a complete lie. I think that's again, hugely going to impact all the other areas of your life in a really positive way. And you'll notice that, like, again, we're talking about now, like relationship health, which is kind of like mental health and spiritual health, all rolled into one. Talking about physical health, all these things impact all of each other. Like, they all impact each other. So I think that if you have a healthy home, it impacts your business in a positive way. It impacts your physical health in a positive way. If you go to the gym and you're physically healthy, it impacts your business in a positive way. It impacts your relationship in a positive way. Nobody wants to date somebody that used to be hot and then they completely let themselves go, and now you're both unattracted to each other. Like, that's not good either, right? So you gotta maintain all these different areas of your life. And the last thing, I think, which has been very important in business and career success, is leverage. So leverage technology, leverage resources, leverage capital, leverage different things, because again, I think I think it's a much better lens to look at business through than just delegation, because delegation implies that you're leveraging people to help you build your business. But I think there's so many other things. So I love focusing on more leverage than just delegation when you're trying to build a business, because then it opens your eyes up to all the different possibilities. Like even before we jumped on, we were talking about, okay, how do we fix some audio? And I was talking about a product that Adobe does that has like AI audio fixing. And I've basically told my entire team to use that whenever they want to, which completely speeds up their workflow and optimizes the end result and the output. So, I mean, you can leverage audio, you can leverage technology in a variety of different ways. You can leverage capital and money in a variety of different ways. You can leverage people. But the point is just like leverage will radically change your career. Whether or not you're working within a company or without, there's ways to leverage so that you can sort of 10x what you can achieve while you're here on this planet. So I think those would be the three main things that have been the most impactful in my life.
There's a couple of little quotes that I really like that tie into the second and the third one that are super relevant. The first one being the idea that a healthy man wants 1,000 things, a sick man wants one, which I think about a lot. So health has to be at the foundation, because without it, nothing else matters. So it's game over. And then the second one is Archimedes saying, if you give me a lever and a place to stand, I can move the world.
I love that
like
quote.
A lever long enough and a place to stand, I can move the world, So, those two things are extremely important. And the idea of leverage has really been etched into my brain, and a big reason why I'm doing the podcast, because after listening to the tweet storm from Naval, he speaks about leverage to the nth degree. Yeah. And I looked at this and I thought, okay, well, he speaks about how do you get leverage? You get leverage through media, through code, or through people, or through capital. And it seemed like the closest opportunity for me to create any leverage, because I'm not a coder, I don't have a ton of money, sure, I could manage people, was media. And then that's what led to this.
I guess it's ironic. That's the only one that I didn't mention. That's the one that I'm actually doing the most of, which is funny. But yeah, 100% correct. Yeah.
And next question was, what's your hot take right now and why?
What's my hot take right now and why? My hot take, my controversial hot take is that we need more positive male role models. Because I think that the male role models that we have for business, for life, for entrepreneurship, I think that they thrive off leveraging media in a very negative way. So I think that not all, obviously, but I think that we need a lot more positive male role models that emulate, again, all three things that I just discussed in a healthier environment, because that will create a healthier generation of men who want to build things, take care of themselves, and build strong family units. And I think that's a net positive thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, and I don't really have a way to combat it, but whether or not it's legacy media or social media, the most toxic, outlandish thing is usually the thing that goes the most viral, leading to a whole bunch of influence that is probably not a net positive on the world. So I think that we have to find a way, or more men in particular. I mean, there's a lot of different influences that are positive, but I'm just speaking from my perspective. There has to be more men that really, talk the talk and walk the walk as to what a healthy person and a healthy man actually is. And I think that that's something that I've had a few conversations with some very prominent, like, male thought leaders. And I think that this is something that I think more people have to step up, who have built great families and built great businesses and take care of themselves. So yeah, that's something that I think is very important.
On that note, I've done a number of podcasts with some very prominent people in this space. So a guy called Connor Beaton, Man Talks. We did a podcast together.
I don't know him.
I don't know him.
I'll have to look him up.
He's great. Just the exact ideal of what you're saying there. And then I just finished recording an episode with Dr. Robert Glover, which wrote the book. What's the book called? I've gone blank. The book is, am I fully gone blank?
You know how many times this has happened to me when I'm recording?
No More Mr. Nice Guy. The book is No More Mr. Nice Guy. And this speaks about this exact thing again, just like weak men and what happens when men are weak and not clear about their thinking.
The issue is that they're not controversial and they're not assholes and I don't know their names. That's the issue, right? So they're building, but I think that there has to be more people like that, because the two examples you just named, I don't know them super well, which is a concern, because if I don't know them super well, that means a lot of other people don't know them super well either. So I think that's what we need more of. And I hate that for a period of time, I feel like men that sort of check the boxes in those three categories, they weren't putting a lot of themselves out there. They weren't putting the other components of their life. So maybe they had a great business, but they only focused on, I've built this business. They don't bring in the other aspects or components of their life. For whatever reason, maybe they're just, I get it. It's super personal. It's super intimidating to put like personal parts of your life on social. So what I'm trying to do actively right now is I'm trying to vlog. I'm trying to put more of myself out there, like more of what a day in the life looks like. So I'm not just talking head business podcaster person. It's like, because that's not realistic. Everybody has all these different, like these multitude of aspects to their personality. And I think it's important that if you check all these boxes and you've done the work in all these different departments, and it's not like you're perfect, but I think that it's good to speak about some of the other struggles that you're going through in your marriage, in your health, in your wellness, because then it ends up making you a more complete, real person, which I think people crave. They look for real, complete role models they can look up to and emulate. And I think in particular that men have not a huge amount of people to look up to right now.
Yeah, I agree. This is a much bigger topic that I think we should dig into later on.
I agree. So. Maybe we do a podcasting episode. We do a men's health episode.
For sure. We'll see where we go from here. I like it. So on the next note, what's your ideal morning routine and why?
Ideal morning routine is, so I actually work quite late. So I usually work until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So if I do that, then I'll wake up, because it's easier for me. It's like when everyone's already asleep, I can get a lot of work done and not getting any emails. So if I do that, I'm probably waking up around 9:30. I will.
Do you wake up with an alarm?
I do wake up with an alarm. My morning routine is pretty simple. I've been doing it for the past, how old am I? 10, 15 years. I'll wake up. If I'm going to the gym, I'll take BCAAs, electrolytes, and pre-workout, go lift, and I usually lift 3 to 4 times per week. The split varies. Right now I'm on like a chest, bi, back, tri, legs, and then shoulders and whatever I feel like doing. And then one day of like cardio. So that will be sort of my morning routine. I always like lifting fasted. I hate lifting after I've eaten. Come back, eat a little bit, and then start to work. But that's pretty much it. Not too much else to it. It's very simple. It works for me. I feel good with my lifts and my gym. And I also, if I even extend the fast a little bit, so if I come back from the gym and just take some more BCAAs, then I actually feel very clear, and I can probably work for another 3-4 hours before I start to actually feel hungry. And so far, that's sort of checking all the boxes, right? I'm cognitively present. I feel sharp, on point. Workouts are good. Physique looks great. Energy levels are good. So it's working for me. Yeah,
great. And what's the most impactful book you've read and why?
The most impactful book. So I guess there's kind of like two. One's impacted my mind and one's impacted they both impacted my mind, I guess, but in different ways. So Atomic Habits, which is an obvious answer, because I believe everything that James Clear writes about, and I do try and create these like sort of mini systems in my life for everything that I do. And the second one is Play Bigger, and it's actually written by 4 authors. And again, it's just been a favorite. It's a favorite because what it talks about is category creation. So it speaks about IKEA and Salesforce.com with Benioff and a couple other examples of how people created categories where there were no categories. So the example with Salesforce.com, Mark Benioff, he basically created the category. First of all, he created, before Salesforce.com, everybody had big ass computers called servers sitting in their office, right? That's what the standard was. And that's where all your software ran off of. And then Benioff comes in and he's like, I'm going to wage the war on-premise servers / computers. And I'm going to create the concept of cloud. I'm going to say it's cheaper, it's more secure, it's blah, 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 whatever. You can scale up, scale down. So he created the concept of cloud. He waged a war on the category of on-prem servers. And then it just so happens that he had a company that sold a product that was the solution to this horrible on-premise infrastructure that everybody had, right? So the concept, and he goes through a couple examples like that. It's a really well-written book. It's a lot of fun to read. And obviously a lot of business lessons there. But for me, I love the idea of category creation. So I think that the first version of what you build, for most people, it's great to just build maybe a version or an interpretation of what already exists in the market because it's easier and it's quicker to find product market fit. But ultimately, I think that the final evolution of anything you try and do will be creating or redefining a category to some degree if you do it for long enough, and if you learn from your mistakes, and if you want to be the best in class. I think that's where you have to go. So it's always fun to think like that. Even when we do a podcast, I mean, when I started a podcast, when you start a podcast, it's probably a copy paste of something that's already out there. But as you do it, as you evolve it, you're doing something a little bit different already. You're doing a short episode followed by a long episode. That alone is slightly different than the 10,000 other interview style podcasts that just put out the full length interview, right? So you start to define or redefine or reinterpret or create the category in some new way. And I think that's how you win. I think that sometimes just people try and skip a whole bunch of steps and go there too soon. But I always like to think, okay, what can I do radically different that works, that hasn't been done before, that sort of opens people's eyes to, wow, I've never even thought of consuming content like this, or I've never thought of this kind of content, or I've never thought of this kind of pick a industry or widget or category. So I think it's a fun way to think because it sort of opens your minds up to, yeah, there is a potential at some point in my life that I can do something that no one's ever done before. And I'll be known for doing that thing. And when I'm known for doing that thing and the market receives it, the moat that I've created in the business that I've built will be like defining for the category or redefining for the category. I think it's a really fun thought. So
yeah. Okay,
those are my two books.
Yeah, they're good books. I like it. I haven't heard either of them.
Are we still on the rapid fire section?
Still on the rapid fire. We got to get through it. It's so fine. Slightly less rapid fire. What's the craziest life hack you've found that you're currently gatekeeping?
The craziest life hack. The craziest life hack I've found that I don't gatekeep a lot of shit that I do. Okay, so I live on platforms because I've kind of got like the relationship playbook down more or less. I've gotten like the health and fitness playbook down more or less. Like I figured out like a formula that works and I think the only thing that I'm constantly trying to improve on, and not to say there's not areas for improvement in both of those because there always is, but I think that business is the most variable area for constant improvement. So I mean, we spoke about leverage. I think technology is the ultimate leverage. I mean, you can only leverage people to so much. I mean, there's only so much talent that you can hire, and there's only so much that you can pay them or try and outsource overseas and pay less. There's diminishing returns on that particular point of leverage. Media, yes, you can leverage to a significant degree, but I think that it's a long game with media. I think that technology has the biggest, quickest impact on what you're trying to build or capital, but capital comes with a whole other headache of problems. I mean, if you raise money, there's only so much equity you can give away too. So technology is a big thing. And that means that I live on Product Hunt. I live on AppSumo. I live on places where there's new technology and new businesses. There's like a Y Combinator forum, message board thing that I love to just browse. So like I love to just immerse myself in new tech. and some of it works and some of it doesn't. And I probably bought a whole bunch of shit that I'll never use. But some of the shit that I have bought has put me about 6 months ahead of what 99% of the people in my particular industry are doing. And I think that that is a huge competitive advantage because it can, especially in the advent and age of AI, learning about what's new and what's being built. And I mean, right now I'm obviously focused on building a podcast brand, whatever. What are the tools and softwares that I can use to 10x my content output or optimize my production or fix my audio with Adobe, whatever. I think that if you are sort of like finger on the pulse of what's coming out, I think it's a huge competitive advantage. So that's where I spend a little bit of my time. Yeah,
I like that a lot. I'm going to subscribe to AppSumo. I know it exists, but I never really look into it. So it's really good to hear. I like that one. And my final question for the...
I love it. And you get lifetime deals.
Yeah. Go on.
No, I was going to say you get lifetime deals to things that, again, even like if you want to talk about financial leverage, right? You get a lifetime deal to a software that could be $200 a month. But if you get a lifetime deal from AppSumo because you just discovered it earlier, you're going to pay $200 for forever. Then you get full access to that thing for eternity, right? So as a startup, as somebody trying to build something scrappy, I mean, if you have unlimited budget, it's still smart to be scrappy. But I mean, obviously this applies for people that are starting a side hustle or starting to be a creator or just starting something. I think it's a fun place to just hang out and see what's new.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot as well, and you kind of get that first mover advantage as well. So, and my last question for you in the not so rapid fire is somebody asks you to play the single greatest song of all time. What are you playing and why?
Jeez, that's a very tough question. It's a very tough question for me because I like so many genres of music. So like I used to play a whole bunch of music. So I used to play piano, and then I played drums. Then I was a DJ in high school and university. And then I also love country. And then I love like hip hop and rap. And I like classical when I'm trying to focus. Geez, one song. Can I pick one artist? Can I pick my favorite artist as opposed to like favorite song?
Go on.
So my favorite artist, like one guy that like never disappoints is Biggie. I'm just a huge like Biggie fan. And actually I think there's actually a biological reason why a lot of us like music that we like. So apparently when you're listening to like one kind of music, when you're growing up, like when you're between like whatever, 15 to 20, your brain is still developing. And if you listen to one kind of music while your brain's still developing, there's something that happens where that's what your brain recognizes as good music. And when your brain stops developing, the new music you hear after that is no longer, it doesn't resonate the same way because it's like biologically your body is in a different space and your brain is in a different space. So that's why like everybody who listened to music during high school, it doesn't matter how old you get, you'll always love the music that you listened to during high school. So that's why I hate rap that comes out now, but I love rap that came out when I was between 15 and 20 years old. Same with our parents. Like they liked shit that happened, like they were listening to in high school, but not later. But that, I think there's a sciencey reason as to why we like the music that we like. And it's very hard to basically remove those feelings about the music that we listened to in high school.
I wonder why I don't have that issue. Like I will pick up new genres, new styles. Like I'm like up to date with pretty much most things, and I begin not really liking it that much a lot of the times, and then I listen to it a few more times and it really grows on me. Maybe I'm still a child mentally.
No, it's probably as somebody who's probably, I mean, I'm like a very casual music listener. Like I'm not seeking it out, right? Like I'm talking about like I'm going to the gym, I'm going for a walk, I'm driving in my car, whatever, I'll turn on some music. I think if you are like aggressively seeking shit out, maybe that's when you can change your opinion about music. But I'm just saying for somebody who's like, I'm turning on the radio like for 30 minutes, 3 times a week, you're going to default to the things that you knew as opposed to trying to explore something new. By the way, I think that's correct. I have no data or peer-reviewed studies to back this shit up, but I'm pretty sure that I read this somewhere. So like, this is like a very much a trust me, bro kind of situation.
I love it. All right. Well, on that note, thank you for the rapid fire that we'll put into 3 parts, maybe. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on the other side.